Conversations presented to you by Home Publishings Group and My Design Studio, hosted by Yasmin right there and me,
Hello.
Emmanuel Beliveau. How you doing? All right, so today's Yasmin's coming to you live from the offices at My Design Studio and me while I'm here at my home office as per usual. And this is number 4 in an 8-part series on the impact of COVID-19 on the design industry.
And these episodes would not be possible without the support of HPG and our sponsors, Lixo Group, Constantino, Kentwood Floors, and DXV. Oh, we have a lot of extra names on here.
All good, all good.
Suddenly.
All good. It takes a village, right, Yasmin? It takes a village to keep it all going. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
We have plenty of people behind the scenes to make this all happen, so we're super grateful
Yeah.
for everyone that's contributed to what we're up to. So Yasmin, how things been?
You know, pretty good. It's been some great summer weather, and that's been wonderful. And our projects are picking up, and we're going through. So that's finally nice to see some sales and things generating. It feels good. And how about you, Emmanuel? How are you doing?
You know, it's been, well, the one thing about getting into showrooms, you have to plan everything ahead. So being able to grab clients and just run to a showroom and check things out isn't as easy. So we've had to do some scheduling and some juggling around, but it's working out. Have you noticed a pickup of people coming into your studio? Because I know at My Design Studio, people come in there to review finishes they're doing in other larger projects. Has that been picking up as well?
Yes, it's definitely picking up. So we are doing all the necessary safety precautions to keep everybody safe, including our team. So yes, we're definitely at that point where people are choosing finishes. And an interesting side effect of all of this is that people are looking to do some renovation projects are also considering us because they just can see everything in one space.
Right. That is a nice thing about that, having all the samples around you and seeing what the options are. It's a great spot to kind of build that design plan for sure. Great for us designers to be in there too.
Yes. You're welcome, anytime.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So last episode, we talked about outdoor spaces, and I thought that was a lot of fun. I learned that ditch grass in the county, you can't bring into the city because apparently it will hurt other plants. I did not know that.
Or the pretty pink flowers.
Or the pretty pink flowers, yeah, those two. How about you? Did you learn anything that last episode?
Yes, I learned a lot about, the idea of maybe substituting your lawn with clover or other flowers, to consider plants that that are pollinators to help insects and butterflies, which of course feed birds and other creatures. So yeah, I learned a lot about that. And I also was really interested to learn more about the farm to table things that are happening in our communities right now.
Right, a lot of stuff going on. And I don't know about you, but it did inspire me to make some changes in my backyard. A couple days ago,
what did you do?
Well, I brought my laptop out there and some speakers and set up, and we did a movie night outside. And I thought, you know what, this can be done better. So I now have a projector out there and a big white placard. And so actually Thursday night we're gonna have invite some friends over and do our first movie night, which should be a lot of fun.
Oh, it's funny you said that, because I was just saying to Joelle on the weekend, wouldn't it be fun if we had like a big sheet and a projector to do a movie?
Yeah.
And so where did you? Okay, you'll have to tell me later.
Well, actually, what I was going to say was just an idea, but instead of using a sheet which blows in the wind, you can get the corrugated, it's like a corrugated but plastic cardboard. And you can use that foam core. It's perfect. It stays really strong. Anyway, we're episode 4. We're continuing the conversation on outdoor spaces. And obviously, we learned a lot last week. There's so much more to learn. We've got some amazing guests on the show today. So why don't we jump into it and invite them on?
Yes. So our first guest is Sharon Gresh. Sharon is a regular expert on TV Cityline and has established a reputation as an enthusiastic and knowledgeable authority on all aspects of color, home fashion, and style trends as an in-house color and design expert and spokesperson for Benjamin Moore & Company. Sharon is a member of the company's color innovation team that researches global design trends and produces color marketing material and training programs for their partners. Welcome, Sharon.
Welcome, Sharon. Good to have you.
Thanks. Nice to see you guys.
Good to see you too. All right, let me get Paul out here. So Paul LaFrance. Paul is the founder and head designer of the international design company Paul LaFrance Design, as well as being the host of HGTV's Decked Out, Disaster Decks, Custom Built, Deck Wars. He's a judge on Canada's Handyman Challenge and co-host on the HGTV hit show Home to Win. He's just released a new digital online series called Backyard Revolution. And since 1997, Paul has been designing and installing everything from custom built homes, interior transformations, and corporate projects, but is best known for his cutting edge backyard retreats. And here's a fun thing. Did you know that Paul's a songwriter?
That's right, yeah.
And a master Jedi.
Yes, but I don't like people don't seem to understand. I do wear a Millennium Falcon and a Rebel Alliance around my neck. I am a super nerd in that way, yes. But I don't like to talk about the Jedi side of things because people always think I'm kidding, but I'm not. It's true.
Well, good to have you on the show, Paul. I know that we can expect some fantastic sound bites from you today, so we're really looking forward to it. So what have you guys been up to? How's things been? How's things been in COVID and during, and how are things managing for both of you? Sharon, why don't you go ahead and fill us in?
Well, you know what? It's been a ride. I'm still rather in shock that it's July, to be honest, and we've made it this far. Yeah, I think, to think back to early days, it really felt like the rug got pulled out from under all of us. And I think, really, right? It's been really fascinating to see how all my colleagues in industry, friends have, really made it through by being creative. Someone said to me, necessity is the mother of invention. I'm like, that is really true these days, right? So I think we're just, getting through and working with each other and networking, and it's wonderful to be experimenting and learning so much more about and using technology. I think, I think that's been a big thing for me, is it's always kind of been there, but I think, you're really kind of forced to get in there and use it and leverage it. And it's wonderful. I think that's the way we've been going, and now we have no choice.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yes. And Paul,
how's things been going for you? It's definitely pulled us together. Like it's definitely pulled the whole community together.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Except I hate technology. I detest it. and so while it's been good, it is kind of funny that during this period of time I've had more conversations with like my sisters and my parents than I had prior, just because of the fact that it was like a thing. Like we're using technology now, and I think there's the benefit there. It's just that I suck at it. Like I can make wood, I can turn it into a pretzel and make it bark like a dog. But when it comes to my computer and getting on things like this, if I didn't have administrative help around me, let's just say, it would be rather embarrassing. But as far as the whole thing is concerned, we were having a little chat beforehand about the fact that I have 4 teenage daughters. And when you tell 4 teenage daughters that they can't go anywhere, good luck with all that. Because that's it's not exactly a rational thing. The response is usually like, well, then I'm gonna have to burn down the entire world, and that's kind of hard to bother. It's a little bit challenging. So that's not the reason why I have lost all my hair, though. This is just summer ease, but yeah, a lot of people would be looking and being like, oh, it finally happened. The 4 teenage daughters finally had it all pop out overnight. But that wouldn't surprise
what though, having the teenagers, Paul, and I bet you'll agree, is like having free tech service in your house. Like if it wasn't for my son, I probably wouldn't be sitting here right now. I wouldn't have been doing all the TV I've been doing. It's like they just know it, so it's good learning.
I've turned it to my dad. My dad would be like, son, can you put my watch for me? And I'd be like, Dad, come on, blah, blah. And now I'm the same. Now I'm just like, how do I turn the volume up on the I can't.
Exactly. Right?
It'll be, the volume is not set at that level forever unless they come into the room.
Well, for anyone out there thinking about having kids, those are some really great reasons to do it.
Good reasons. Definitely.
Right.
So I'm curious, what have you guys learned about yourself during COVID? Anything interesting that just didn't pop up before?
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Go ahead, Paul.
Ladies first. I'm always learning.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. I think that I think of myself as a very flexible person, and just my choice of career and the work that I do, things change like this, and I'm very adaptable. But it made me realize how wow, to change overnight, it's hard. And I realized that I guess I've always directed those changes when they're kind of being put on you. It makes you really think about things. So yeah, I guess I've realized that I'm not as flexible as I thought, but that's a good opportunity to learn from that. And so it's really kind of given me the opportunity to also go, you know what, now that I have a little bit of time, or I had a little bit of time,
Mhm.
a couple of months back, to think it's an opportunity to sort of learn some new skills that will, help in different ways, to help manage change and to help other people manage change.
Mhm. I
So
think
yeah,
it's
and I like being alone. That's one thing I realized too. I've always worked from home, but now everyone's working from home in my house, and I'm like, I can't deal. It's hard.
Yeah. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Oh
That's
yeah.
interesting. That's really interesting. It does change the energy, peaks and valleys when
It,
something like this happens, for sure.
yeah, and I think within
Yeah.
you guys as interior designers, you probably have noticed, we've all been doing interior designs with open plans, and now I've been, a lot of people have asked me, how can I make off a little space, in my house with even just like pretend walls and just different
yeah,
ways to accommodate your space to give yourself more, more privacy. It's big
Hmm.
change.
yeah.
I
Those
think,
Yeah,
those those points have definitely come
definitely.
up for sure. Yeah.
well, I think for me, it's I've been on a soapbox for a long time, talking about the fact that most of us don't realize that we're living in the fastest moving culture in the history of humanity.
Sure.
And people are all around the world, but particularly North America, we're starting to follow the path like that you would hear about in Japan, where people are like starting to die from like stress related diseases,
Mhm.
and we just this is all we know. We're just going so
Right.
fast all the time, and we are not created to go this fast. It is
Mhm.
so foreign to our minds, to our systems, to the
Mhm.
villages that we lived in
Mhm.
prior to the Industrial Revolution, and everything came together, and it just kept going faster and faster. And
Mhm.
so the technology thing, I'm like, we advanced all this technology in order to buy us more time so that we
Yeah.
could live
Yeah.
and invest in the things that are important. And then what did we do? We just
Mhm.
filled in that time with more and
Made
more
it
and more
worse.
work, until
Mhm.
the point that now it's like, now the phones are waterproof, so you can't even have a shower like without being like back in the day, it was like you wrote somebody a letter,
Yeah.
and it'd be like, on like with a feather on like parchment, and you would expect a return of that letter within a fortnight,
Mhm.
which
Mhm.
was not just a video game that the kids play. You
Yes.
know, it was like 2 weeks. You ask somebody what a fortnight is, they're like, I don't know. That was 2 weeks. You would have
Mhm.
2 weeks to get a letter in return before somebody was committing some sort of social faux pas. Now, what do you have? 15 seconds by the time you get an email before you're expected to respond, before you're like, you might ruin your career. Like, it's just way too
Yeah.
stressful.
Yeah.
But I didn't expect all four tires to lock up at one time in the middle of the highway, and just like the whole culture just go "Arr!" in this screeching halt, and everyone's like, what that? So I'm like,
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
expect that. But I do think that it's provided, like I agree with what you're saying, Sharon. I think it's really provided people the opportunity to stop and get some perspective
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
they
And
wouldn't have been
reset.
able to get otherwise. I've had more people than I can count say, like, I've just realized that I this is the greatest opportunity for me to potentially even reinvent myself,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
maybe move into things that, and particularly people that are artistic by nature, who have found themselves in lines of work that aren't necessarily what they love, uh, suddenly taking the time and going, what do I really want to continue doing, what I don't love doing?
Mhm.
And that's,
Mhm.
I mean, like, to me, that's the
Exactly.
greatest tragedy of life, right? So I could go on, but I'll stop there.
Well,
No,
I think
it's
what I
very
hear you
good.
saying,
Awesome.
what think I hear you saying is that a lot of us encounter change as an obstacle, something that's very difficult to do. But also now, given the circumstances that we find ourselves in, it's either
Mm.
change or no longer exists. And so there's a necessity to pivot into something different or something new. And I think what's
Hmm.
interesting is, as you said before, being where we're at, there's a necessity to make that change. And what's really nice and encouraging about that is, if we are making those changes now, perhaps we can look at that and say, hey, I made the change now maybe there's other things in my life that I want to work on change as well, because I can create this consistency of I was effective in change before, I can make change again, I can make change again. I don't have to stay in that route that I've been in. And COVID in some ways has really given people that opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's afforded us time. It's afforded us time.
Mm-hmm.
And prior to that, you never created the space for time. But this was like, go in the corner, it's a time out, you know, and sort of really think about what
it's like a planet said, okay, humans, go in your corners. It's time out time. Give me a chance to breathe. And everyone go in your corner, contemplate life. Yeah.
Like a serious timeout. Like, I know I'm ready for it not to be that now, but on the other hand, now there's the terror of re-augmenting the whole thing again. It is a very emotional balance of how to live in this time, because there's no specific ending in sight. And hence we're looking at our homes and our backyards. I'll go into that segue right now of how to extend that square footage and how to make it another place that we can feel at peace or peaceful, or give us another area for our thinking and our planning to share with our families and our friends and ourselves as well.
All right. So why don't we just before we get into the next conversation, why don't we throw up our first poll question, so we can get that out there and get people engaged in our first poll question, and then the rest of us, we're going to jump into our conversation. So Joelle, if you'll post that, that'd be great. And then there is. Do you think the color of your front door should match the color of your garage? Dun dun dun.
Man.
Okay.
Yes, that's a very big question. I get asked that a lot.
Am I answering this question?
Yeah. Do I have to say something?
Okay.
Oops. Oh, there we go.
Back. I was like, but I'm trying to answer, but it won't let me.
Yeah, me too.
I just tried to keep the poll open a little bit for people to have time to answer.
Awesome.
No problem.
So
do you want us to give our opinions on this?
Sure. Yes. Give your opinions. We'd like to hear.
No, I think I could expound. Well, I think the front door is. I think a front door oftentimes has the really unique ability to, and remember, I'm a little Peter Pan-esque, and I'm very big in I'm very anti-trend, and I like I like doing things that are, for me, the key to design is if you can design for somebody something that's timeless, that tells a story that still actually works for for somebody else, say, coming in and buying your home down the road. Like, if you can do those things, I think that you can I think you've done really well. But for me, I'm always like, what is somebody's story? Like the front door that I had recently installed had this amazing silhouette of this tree, because there was something about trees that was just really kind of deep set into my clients, kind of into who they are and the meaning of it. But it can have that deep meaning for them and just be this creative artistic piece that still works for let's say the average 6 years down the road when they decide to move or whatever. So yeah, my answer is heck.
I agree with you 100%, Paul. Yeah, I agree with Paul 100%. I think that it really is, there's not a lot of opportunities for color and personality per se on the front of your home, because you're working with the natural landscape, the environment. For a lot of us, we're working with our neighbors. I'm in a semi, like, you've got to think about all these other things. But that front door is somewhere that you can go a little bit more fun, and you can change it more often too. So I mean, I'm certainly all about color on the outside. I think you need to definitely pull it back generally, but for the rest of the home. But I think for the front door, it really is your opportunity to to showcase your favorite color. And if you are into trends, maybe it's an opportunity to use a bit of a trend color that you might not want to use on the whole cladding of your house, but you could add some color. I think the photo that we have up there is actually sort of an example of black, as something that we're seeing a lot of people use as accents on homes, or even on full facades for cladding and that sort of thing. But little elements of trim. But if that door was black, you kind of would lose it, right? Like you kind of want to have that, the beautiful pop of wood on the herringbone. That's a feature. That door is a feature. So make it stand out from the rest of the home.
100%.
Yes, I agree. Well.
So much for fighting. I thought we were going to fight.
Yeah, I know.
So,
oh, I can't hear Emmanuel.
I can't hear Emmanuel.
Okay, so Sharon, what are some ways to bring a color into the outdoor space without staining? Okay, yes, you're back on. Yeah.
Oh, there he is. Yay.
Yeah, we just had a brown here. We lost all our power, and then it all came. Everything went off. It was crazy. So this is live, everyone. This is live. It's not pre-recorded.
It's live.
It's all the air conditioning because it's so hot.
Could be. All right.
I still can't believe you're outside, Sharon. You're very brave.
I know.
I'd be sweating.
If we start seeing her drip, we'll know.
Yeah,
why.
if I start to melt, please let me know.
Okay.
Well, Yasmin, you were just asking about bringing color outdoors, and I think that I get asked that a lot from the media and from homeowners, because you especially these days we're spending so much time at home, and I find even for Canadians in the winter, even if we're not outside in our backyard enjoying it, you want to enjoy the view. So you kind of, unfortunately, we lose our beautiful flowers. Come wintertime, you don't see color in the natural landscape as much. So I do like to look for opportunities where you can keep color outside all year round. So in a lot of cases, that could be painting or buying a pre-finished shed that's in a nice bright color, or painting your deck chairs. And and deck chairs you can even buy already, made with beautiful colors these days. But I love that opportunity to go, Caliente is my favorite red. I want to look at it all year round, and painting that chair or that shed outside in your backyard, or if it's at your cottage with like a nice strong color like that. So even when you have a nice neutral, gray siding, you can have those elements. If it's not your front door or your back door, I think pieces of furniture are a really great opportunity for color.
So don't be afraid of throwing those pops in there. Like, just go.
Yeah, exactly. Just do it. Yeah,
It's amazing how emotional. It's amazing how emotional color is. I mean, like it's mentioned, like I am a musician first and foremost. I am a singer-songwriter, and I've heard a lot of musicians talk about that in terms of the emotion and the feel of a certain song will have a color almost attributed to it. And I just think, I was crazy, and then so other people say the same thing. I'm like, oh, maybe I'm not nuts, but there's such an emotional, very interesting psychological factor that happens when you're introducing color. So yeah, that's a project I just finished, and yes, there were some water elements, but those screens in the back, in the wintertime, those screens are illuminated LED panels that have this continuous water theme. Even when the water of the, there's the waterfalls coming down into the spa, coming down into the moat, like you do, a moat in your backyard.
Oh, so that's a screen? That's not real water?
Yeah, that's real. All that water is all circulating, flowing down on the waterfalls. But in the winter, because the spa is covered, unless you want to pay $1 billion to heat it as it's evaporating. But those screens in the back, that pop of color ties you into that backyard space, even in the middle of January when it's it's dark at 4:30, and that helps with those emotional, the winter blahs, where people can a lot of people suffer seasonal disorders from the lack of sun, and if you work inside and you're in your car, you drive home and you have maybe a little bit of sunlight, but then you get into your house and the only thing you're used to seeing is the reflection of the light back of your own windows, because there's nothing out there to draw your eye. So I totally agree with Sharon that having that color pop, and then I like taking it just a step further and having it in, like, those panels could be anything you want them to be. They can be like, if you can find it on Shutterstock, you can have it. You can take a photograph of yourself and put them on these Lexan panels and have it illuminated. I mean, depending on you, you're like, look at me, whatever you want to do. Yeah, photos of your kids. I'm sure they'll love it, when their friends come over. But they just add this emotional tie-in all year
Beautiful.
round that I think I think has a psychological effect, and which I like. I love delving into stuff like that.
So Paul,
love
what
those.
are some things that your clients are asking you for that might be more because of what we're living through right now? What are they asking for in their backyard designs?
I think just more and more people are catching on to the message that I've been saying for years, and that is, pre-COVID, it was like, guys, as human beings in this culture, we are absolutely desperate for a place of rest, whether we are psychologically aware of that or not. And so to be able to create that outdoor space and obviously I'm gonna be involved with some pretty grand projects, but I have just as much enjoyment in these smaller postage stamp backyards, because the ability to transform the entire space with minimal budget spent is really fun. And particularly when people go, what could you possibly do out there? I'm like, gather around, let me tell you.
Well, Paul, there's something to be said about a 10 by 10 foot, a 10 by 10 from a permit perspective, right? There's only so beyond 10 by 10, we require a permit. So in that 10 by 10 framework, in your experience with what I know you can do, what are your some, top suggestions in that size of space?
Well, it's funny. I just did a whole sequence on Marilyn Dennis about that, where I'm finding that a lot of people are doing DIY stuff right now.
Yeah.
So they're going, I've got time on my hands.
Exactly.
And I have YouTube, and YouTube is,
YouTube University, I call it.
Yes, it is. As much as I'm kind of a very anti-tech type of guy when it comes to, teenage girls that are on their phone like this close all day long. I do like the fact that there's something really kind of valuable about going into your backyard space, and like my daughters learn to build. My eldest daughter is like about to graduate from Georgian College in welding, she's going to start welding and making good money at 19 years old, because we need tradespeople in Canada. But I digress.
Yeah.
So 10 by 10 space in a backyard, I did on Maryland, was like for $2,800 of materials. You can go right from having a gorgeous 10 by 10 like pergola with beautiful outdoor fabrics, with a decorative screen, with solar lighting, with either with a garden surrounding it, and either a synthetic grass or even a flagstone base. But the difference is, you're not building this attached to the house. You put this out, whether the back of your property is 10 feet away, or 40 feet away, or 200 feet away. You're creating a destination. And in that little 10 by 10 space, I turn it around and I focus you back toward your house.
Yeah.
So because most people look at their backyards and what they see is like if you look at where Sharon is, they see the fence. That's what they see, right? You look in the backyard, you see your fence and the house in behind, more likely, right? And so what's the point of staring at that? There's nothing inspiring about that. And so unless you're gardening, you're not usually even hanging out in that part of the yard. So you take a little 10 by 10 space and you put it out there. Number one, you're right. No permit required, because it's only 10 by 10, right? Same as building a shed. And in that 10 by 10 space, whether it's a deck surface, whether it's a gazebo, there's so much you can do. You turn it around and you face your own house from a distance. So my wife and I, we had, I had this wonderful, in my old house, we had this, 500 square foot deck. And of course, it was super cool. But we spent 90% of the time on that deck in this 10 by 10 foot space at the back. Of course, it's me. So there was like it was like a drawbridge and like waterfalls flowing, and like 5 fireplaces, retractable awnings, a zombie defense system, whatever.
Clearly, you need 6 daughters, not 4. Like
The whole team.
But we turned around and faced the house, and I'm telling you, the decision even to move up to Georgian Bay took place on that 10 by 10 space, because we're looking back at our house and going, we're sitting away from our lives in essence and going, what are we doing? Are we going the right way? Should we make a turn left? Should we make a turn right? And it gives you that separation from your own life. And And I've had more people tell me after I've done these types of designs in their backyards, come up and be like, we couldn't believe the difference it made just to separate ourselves.
Mhm.
And then someone says, so I'd like to hang a TV out there. And I'm like, no, no TVs. You know? It ruins the whole point. No TVs, right?
Yeah.
You sound like an old man. No TVs, no money.
So
No,
would
that's a
people
good
be
point.
doing more hardscaping than soft stuff right now?
Depends. I
It
think
depends.
hardscaping with like laying stone, like
Mhm.
large stone, laying pavers is fine. But I think, I think most people, it's like in Canada, it's like when you're born in Canada, but as a male, and this is just talking about guys for a second because, I've seen some pretty awesome projects built by women who, and I'm like, do more so you can get more women into the trades, But in Canada, as a guy, you're like born, you're supposed to already know how to play hockey, hunt moose, and build a deck. Like it's just like built into our social stigma or something, So I'm like, not everyone has that skill. If you ask me to do your taxes, you're going to end up in jail very, very quickly. Like it's just gonna be a very short trip for you. So,
All right, Paul.
whatever people like,
I love
do a
it.
deck, do landscaping, just do it, try it.
Yeah. Yeah. I just
Yeah.
want to I just want to jump into
DIY.
something. You talk about being in Canada, and the one thing about in Canada is that we do have our four, I just showed three, but our 4 seasons, of which, winter, spring, fall, really, in the summer, obviously we bake and we freeze our decks. What's the best way to bring life back to our decking material?
Oh, like post-winter, you mean?
Sure. Sharon and Paul, go ahead, just jump in on that one.
Well, I would say I can go on for that one, but I want to hear from Sharon because I talk way too much.
All right, Sharon, what do you got?
She's out there in the sun. I want to hear from Sharon.
No, I'm enjoying it. In fact, I'm now sitting in my new home office, which is at the back of my property in this great little gazebo area that we built. And I'm looking at my house going, yeah, I got to really fix the backside of my house now from this angle. So I'm daydreaming. Daydreaming about projects.
Because I was monologuing for half an hour. That's probably fine.
All right, guys, how do we update a deck? How do we fix that weather deck? Let's go.
How do you fix that deck throughout the season? Well, I mean, I think that a lot, as Paul was saying, which I've been seeing a lot of, is that decks aren't always just attached to the house. Like they really are in different areas because you have to take advantage. But we do definitely get, all 4 seasons, and you definitely get a lot more abuse with weathering, especially if you're using natural materials like wood, which, a lot of us still do because we love it for so many reasons. But I think it is a matter of maintenance, and I think that's sort of part of it. That's where you got to get your kids involved, I think. Some house chores, every year, power washing and cleaning everything up and preparing it. But you do need to like, again, I sort of think more about the natural materials like wood, but even if you have engineered surfaces, it still takes maintenance. You still have to clean it. You still want it to last for a long time. And actually, just last year, I worked on a project where we painted an engineered deck. Like it was all engineered wood. It was over 20 years old, and even things that are meant to sort of, you think are more maintenance free, I mean, they do require maintenance. And after 20 years, that sort of, orangey wood color that was in style 20 years ago isn't anymore. And so you've got to think about preparing that surface, whether it's wood, whether it's engineered. I mean, stone is certainly easier, but it, just to sort of keep it clean. But I think with your wood surfaces, yeah, you do want to really think about the maintenance, the preparation, and it is something that is more of us are doing as a DIY because we've had the opportunity. But it's a lot of work, and I think the preparation and the planning for all of these projects takes a lot more than the fun part of actually doing the makeover, adding the color, adding the stain or the paint or what have you. So
as far as elements to clean a deck or to clean teak or to clean that material, are we talking about using some of those solutions that break that down? Are we talking about sanding and then refinishing? What do we think are the best ways to deal with that?
Oh, there's my table. That's a great example with something like teak, which is actually an awesome material because it lasts so long. It's naturally, mildew resistant, and surprisingly, it works great in our weather here in Canada. But this was a great, a really simple opportunity to just clean it up. Like basically with teak, it's such a hard wood. It's a matter, I didn't even need to use any chemical. It was really sanding it down with a 80 grit sandpaper. And then I used, Benjamin Moore has an oil stain. They have lots of waterborne stains, but I prefer the oil for teak and hardwoods. I find that just sort of penetrates better. So I just used a natural color that brought out that beautiful orange red tone in the teak. So it was just natural, translucent oil stain. So that was really a quick project over the weekend, and what a difference it makes. I like the patina of the grade wood as well in some cases, but it just, it's over 10 years old and now it looks brand new again. So I think keeping those materials, right?
Yeah,
you like
that just looks, sorry, that just looks aged to me. It looks aged. And I think that's one of the reasons why I will say to clients like ad nauseum, please, unless you really, really like and get therapy out of stripping, sanding, and restaining your deck every single year, don't do it, because it also is going to affect your resale value of your home. Because in the same way, people understand, if you're buying a pool, if you're putting a pool in, you know that that's not necessarily going to add resale value to your home, because the person next may not want that pool and they don't want the maintenance and that comes with it. And so in often cases, it can actually serve as, well, it's going to cost me $7,000 to fill in that hole in the ground. Even if their kids are in the car going, yeah, we're getting the pool, like, everyone will be quiet. We want to pretend, but we don't want the pool. So it's the same thing with wood surfaces now. If you can build a stunning backyard project and have all kinds of wood elements, but if your deck floor is cedar or pressure treated, more and more people are now looking and going, well, I'm going to have to resurface all that because I don't want the maintenance.
Sure.
And so they're going, therefore, it's going to cost me X amount of dollars just to rip all that up. And, because I know the framework underneath is fine, but I don't want to have to maintain this every year. Why?
Yeah.
We wouldn't go to a resort if, you walk into the resort, you sit down in your chair and somebody brings you a nice margarita and says, Mr. LaFrance, when you're done, would you mind painting the gazebo? You'd be like, I may not come back here ever again. When you look at those.
This is pre-finished.
That's right. So that particular product is a product from Decorators. It's the new Voyage product, and it's really, really, and I love it because they're now doing that black. They're allowing this, doing this black picture frame border, which allows you to really accent and create some really interesting pop in the deck floor. And I've also incorporated stone into the picture frame, again, to add some elements. In the same way we like mixing up our flooring inside the house. But the wonderful part about this is that no, you do not, it will not warp, split, crack, or fade. Great. Can some composite surfaces scratch more than others? Yes, and I'm always very wary of that. But the biggest thing for me is are you having to still wash it every now and then like you would wash your car? You wouldn't take your car back to the dealership, be like, hey, my car's dirty, what the heck's with this? Did you take it through a car wash? People are like, no. Amazing how people think. It's not maintenance free. It's ultra low maintenance, which means taking a power washer to it after the winter time to get you have a big chunk of ice that's sitting there and everything's just, all the organic material is now forming a stain. There's all kinds of products out there that can get those stains out. But the point is, from there on out, you're not having to do that other ridiculous.
You need to think about your lifestyle.
Value to your house. That's huge.
Okay, so I have a very quick question. I'll use myself as a quick example because I know we want to get to the rapid fire questions. We're at that time. So I have a 11 by 8 foot, it's a weird size deck, and it's a untreated cedar or wood. I'm not sure what kind of wood it is. Over the years, it's actually cupped. So I have a decision to make. Rip it out and redo the floors, or use the pre-finished type product. And it's a hard decision. All my treads are getting loose because I think whoever installed them also installed them too close, and the water pooled and created these the cup. So I'm sure I'm not the only person out there who's thinking about redoing their little deck. What side should I lean on?
you're going to take any thought that you had in your mind to go with wood or cedar, and you're going to remove it. You're going to remove that from your thought process forever and ever. Amen. On horizontal surfaces, not on vertical surfaces.
Yeah.
Because on the vertical surfaces, you know, the sun is deflecting, the water is draining, and unless you're having really, really wild parties, nobody's walking on the vertical surfaces. You know.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the complete opposite on the ground, right? People, and that's why.
So,
you're
what
doing
am
that
I doing?
Every year you're going to retreat that floor. You're going to get, you know, depending on your exposure.
Well, I've never treated it. I've never sealed it. Maybe that's part of the problem. I don't know. But it's just a natural wood. It's all gray. It's a beautiful color, but it's not safe anymore.
Yeah, it's probably just served its lifetime. But I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Unless if you like that silver patina. So like with cedar, for instance, right? Or the teak. When Sharon was showing that teak. Some people call that silver. I call it gray. It's a taste thing, right? Like if you're in the Toronto and you're down in the beaches and there's an old Victorian house, that works. You know, that silver patina looks great. If you're in a modern house and it's eight.
Yes, rip it out.
Replace it with what?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a good point
about
the horizontal surfaces. Exactly. I think it's a really good point. That's where all the abuse is going to be. So I think that, you know, the opportunity to use natural material that you might be able to change more often, because I find rails and fences are actually a good opportunity to even add color, and you can use a solid stain, and you could do your black rails and maybe have your, you know, your engineered flooring, you know, you can put rugs down on it. Like there's lots of ways that you can bring your interior style outside, and in your case, I'm sure the interior style is awesome. So I would bring it outside, Yasmin. But yeah, I think that certainly the horizontal surfaces are tricky.
And I think, Sharon, this would be an interesting little topic. So when it comes to a pop of color, I did something up here. So we moved up to the cottage with 4 teenage daughters last year, out of the city, love it. But I'm going to be doing renovations here. But I had an older deck. And I was like, I'm not going to rip this thing. I'm going to end up tearing this whole thing out probably in a couple of years anyway. So I needed a solution to make this work in the meantime, because, you know, I'm the deck guy, and I'm walking out onto the worst deck I could possibly ever imagine. I'm just like, I am the mechanic driving the jalopy. I am the, you know, the cobbler with, you know, holes in his shoes. So I used a synthetic grass, and I laid it out so it allows the moisture to go through. So this Rymar synthetic grass, and I don't know if you can see it, but you have to see how cool this is. That's the result. You can see that? Look at that.
Yeah.
That was a brown aged, horrifying looking thing. And this is not like your dad's AstroTurf. This is now it is a grass surface that looks and feels like natural grass. And everyone was like, "Are you sure?" And everyone's come over, and everyone's just been like, "This is amazing!" Like you can, you know, wrestling with the dog on the ground, and you know, and the dog, thank God, was like, "Not grass." I'm like, "No, not grass." And he's
like, yeah, we're just thinking that.
Okay. All right, so I want to jump into something really quick. Now we do have a series of rapid fire questions. Before we do that, though, I'd like to throw out poll question number 2. And so, Joelle, if you have that, let's get that up on the screen if you could really quick. It's how do you create shade in your outdoor space? Umbrella, canopy, awning, pergola, trees. I just don't like shade. So jump in there and on that, guys. When I was traveling in Uganda, I was having this conversation with a gentleman, and we were talking about something about life in general. And he said to me, he said, you know, if you're thinking that you wish you had shade, now is the time to plant the tree. So, I mean, it's summer 2020. Clearly, you can't plant a tree fast enough today to get a shade. But what's your weigh in on all this?
I never do a project without some sort of shade element, ever. Even if it's not necessarily for shade. Some people are just like sun worshippers. I am a true Scotsman, and I burn very, very quickly. So I you know, my girls would be like, "Dad, come down to the beach," and I'm like, "Is there an umbrella?" Like I have no interest in sitting roasting out in the sun. I've spent my whole life out in the sun. But even for people that love the sun, I'll still create something because I'm going to convince them very quickly that having some sort of aerial element not only gives you the opportunity to draw people out from the house. That's your artistic opportunity. But what if it's just rain? What if it's just a passing thunderstorm, and you have a party plan and you want to be able to save yourself from the rain? That's why there's so many different elements that you can do. But I have found a lot of people really love the Equinox roof system that I've been using. That's actually in those photos that I had sent you. Is a it's a system where the roof opens and closes at your leisure. It'll sense rain coming in and close, but you can be underneath it and tilt it to where the sun is.
Right.
And so that's amazing. It's a bit expensive, but a lot of people love that because it's also very modern looking, very sleek. But I never do a backyard project because the pergola, whatever you create for shade or for rain, even if it's for neither, it's the great opportunity to create something visually interesting that allows you to do a custom screen, allows you to do hanging flowers, allows you to do lighting over your head that creates that draw. Like we follow
and it's coziness too, right? It's coziness. As soon as you put you put a sort of a roof over your head, even if it's open on all sides, it creates that sense of coziness and a bit more of an intimate space. And whether you have a large backyard or a small backyard, it is really nice to have that area where you can go and sit under. I live in the beaches area. I'm covered in lots of trees, but without my gazebo, I'm not sitting out here because the squirrels are leaving me lots of presents from the trees, the acorn. Like there's so many, you're right, like there's so many other reasons other than just shade to have that sort of canopy above you, even even if you have trees.
All right, so before moving any further, none of this would be possible without mentioning our sponsors. So I think Yasmin wants to jump in here and talk a little bit about sponsorship. So we'll do a bit of that. And right after this, we're going to jump into our 10 rapid fire questions where we're going to be as brief and succinct as possible with these questions. Sound good? Paul, talking to you. All right, go ahead, Yasmin.
Okay, so just special thanks to our sponsors, Constantino, Fisher & Paykel, Lixel Group, Kentwood through Metropolitan Floors. Thank you for pivoting with us. And if you are considering an outdoor kitchen or an outdoor fireplace, please be sure to take a look at Constantino's Decton high-density porcelain material, virtually indestructible, scorch-proof, stain-proof, and scratch-proof. And just in case we run out of time, special thanks to James Lopi, who is our production coordinator, Joelle for being our moderator, Annie Bogovic for being our liaison between HPG and us, and to HPG for helping us get these series in the works. So thank you.
All right, so just a quick time check. Time is 3:49. We're going to get through these questions, and then after that, did someone mute him? No.
One quick thing, Denise Turner from Fisher Paykel, special shout out. It was just her birthday. She's a very good friend, and I wanted to make sure I put that in here because Denise, love you, babe.
Thank you.
Sorry, birthday, Denise.
Sorry, Manuel, I won't interrupt again.
No. All good. So what we'll do is we'll go with these 10 questions. Whatever questions we get through, and then after that, Joelle's been putting together a list of questions from our audience members, and then we'll go ahead and answer those questions as well. All right. Okay. So rapid fire question number 1. Both of you go ahead and jump in. Grass or artificial turf?
Artificial turf?
Both the artificial turf?
Yes, what I have for many reasons.
All right. Okay. Very good.
Love it.
Quality or quantity of square footage?
Quality.
I didn't hear the question, but I assume you said quality over quantity. You jumped there. Quality, 100%.
Yeah. Very good. This one's for you, Paul. I just love this question because I think you'll have a great answer to this one. What's your favorite trend right now in exterior design?
My favorite friend?
No, trend.
Oh. My favorite friend.
This is an inside joke.
Rapid fire question?
Yeah. I know,
Next question.
Yeah. All right.
Here's your rapid fire answer, man.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Xeriscape or Lush and Green?
Lush and green.
Lush and green.
Lush and Green. Both of you guys are like hitting it. All right. Let's see on this
Even if
one.
it's artificial.
We're like kindred spirits, man.
Even if it's artificial. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Pool or hot tub?
Hot tub.
I gotta go hot tub. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Because the hot tub or hot tub spa. See, I'm supposed to not answer this, but you can have it cool too. The pool is.
Ooh, yeah.
It's
You
okay.
gotta
You can
really,
elaborate.
really, 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 really want the pool and know you're gonna use it. Otherwise, I'll talk you out of it.
Yeah.
Can you, just an aside, you can take a hot tub and you can just turn the heat off in the summer, right? And just run it run like a cooling,
Want a dip? Hop in there.
right?
Right.
Can you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
100%.
That's cool.
Awesome.
All right.
Polar bear dip.
The winner. Good idea. All right. So this is more of a
Sure.
COVID-related question as to how you've been managing it through COVID. But what in your home stood out as surprisingly useful during quarantine?
Alcohol.
Sharon, come on, stay consistent here.
Sorry. Well, that goes without
Pop that one,
saying.
Sharon.
Yeah, it's hard to top that one. No,
Okay.
I don't know. My dining room
Dining room.
without
What-
lots of people, but useful room suddenly.
Suddenly your dining room is getting used. Oh my,
Yes.
the world has changed. Ladies and gentlemen, a dining room in a house getting used. My gosh.
Yeah.
It's that room
It's a great homework room.
Yeah, right. What's interesting is that it became that room that you kind of had, but no one ever used because you all spent time in the kitchen and the family room. But all of a sudden now it's like, oh wait, we can go there and we can work, we can turn it to a home office, and all of a sudden it becomes
Nice
useful
big
again.
table, right? Area to work.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All
Dining
right.
table in my house bebecomes the big dumping ground for 4 teenage daughters.
There
I
you
don't
go.
have
Just
one right now,
imagine.
and I'm very happy.
Yeah.
That's good. All right. So if you could go and talk to your 18-year-old self, what would you say to yourself about what this industry has taught you? Now you can elaborate on this one. This doesn't have to be that quick. You can actually elaborate a little bit on this one.
Oh, I got something to say, but Sharon, you got to go first on this one.
Well, I guess
Unless
with
you want
one word, I'll just say resilience.
Mm.
You know, and I won't
That's
elaborate.
beautiful.
I'll let Paul do that.
Got it.
That's a
Got it.
beautiful word,
That's a
actually.
great. That's a. Yep.
That checks off a lot of things.
I would say don't take yourself too seriously. Would be the one lesson I would say to my 18-year-old self, particularly as a creative person, as a designer, as a musician.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard when you're creative to not take yourself, because creativity is vulnerable, right? And you know, I find that you know, a lot of people don't realize that as a creative person, even our own sense of insecurity, any creative person that says they're not insecure is lying to you. They're all lying, everyone.
Yeah.
Very, very true.
Yeah.
But our insecurity is proof that we are being vulnerable with what we're creating, even when we're creating for somebody else. And so, you know, I think embracing that is actually makes you a better designer and a better creative person, not being afraid of the fact that insecurity means vulnerability, which means you do love it. You love and it's coming from your heart. But the flip side of that is you can take everything way too seriously and just like, you know, become overly anal retentive. I would say to my 18-year-old self, hey kid, just relax, have fun with this. When you create for somebody else, don't make it your identity. Don't put, you know, you can be vulnerable and create, but don't make it. This is not what defines you.
And I think to say what you're saying, Paul, is the resilience factor of what Sharon just brought in, is that it's the ability to say, I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to share what I've done and put it out in the world. And yes, there's going to be critics everywhere. And it's the resilience that Sharon's talking about that helps us to be that vulnerable person again, who continues to put it out there and to grow as a designer. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think and I'd like to hear more about what resilience means to you, because for me, I'm going, you can't be creative and most
Not have
people
pain.
don't risk it. They won't risk
Yes.
it. Scary. Resiliency, you're either going to push past the fear and do it anyway. And if you can do that and still be and not take yourself seriously, I think you're doing really well. But like, there's always a story behind that. What does that mean? I want to know more, Sharon. Tell me more.
That's another
I think
episode.
we need to meet one of these days, Paul.
Well,
Yeah,
I know.
After
I
COVID.
tell you what, we'll
know,
definitely
we're
revisit that for sure. But what we're
Yeah.
going to do is we're going to jump into the audience questions, and then after our 1 hour sets up, we'll jump back into that. Okay, so why don't we do this?
I like that.
Well, you've been collecting
Awesome.
questions from the audience. Let's hunker down and get some of those in, and as we get closer to the time, we'll negotiate around that. Okay.
Okay, hi everybody.
Awesome.
Hey,
So I
Janelle.
thought I'd share the results of our polls
Oh, yes.
first. So for first poll question, do you think the color of your front door should match the color of your garage? Seems like most people were in
wow.
agreement with you guys. So
Thank goodness our
a
careers
lot
would
of
have been ruined.
people. So hopefully that inspires some of the people who feel like they should match to maybe try something a little bit different next time around on their next project.
Cool.
And for our
Right.
next poll, how do you create shade in your outdoor space?
Yeah, what do
Most
do?
people have an umbrella.
And trees.
A lot of people are using, trees. 50% are using trees just as the natural shade. And I don't know who the 5%
don't like
is
shade.
that don't like shade, but
They're out there.
I guess those you can't help but have some of those sun worshipers.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Give me a hammock and some trees.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, moving on to the questions. Our first question from June asked, shouldn't your outside decor match the seasons?
Ooh.
Oh, interesting.
It is an interesting question. I mean, I think that it's kind of like, I guess if you have the opportunity and the desire to change a lot of those things all the time. I mean, I know interior, people will bring out the faux fur and the layers and the textures in the fall and the winter to warm up, whereas you'll strip it down and maybe bring out some linen or just keep all the cushions and rugs away in the summer. So it might be, it's sort of the same thing outdoors. I mean, I guess, where I am in Ontario, I only get a few months of nice outdoor weather, so I'm not changing it so much. Whereas my friend in Kelowna, she's get to enjoy her outdoors a lot more. So might have the opportunity to make it feel a little bit more fall or feel a little bit more spring. But I think it's more important that you maybe bring the feeling of the interior of your home outdoors, and that's a nice way of extending your square footage in a sense, is bringing your interior style outdoors. So that's my thought.
Great. Okay, next question. Does composite decking, was Sabrina asked this, get really hot in the sun? So does composite decking get really hot in the sun?
Yep.
It
does. However, so if you have a southwestern exposure, which is, with no trees and you're getting smoked all day long, I would definitely advise going with a lighter colored composite or PVC material, because it will help with that. However, people ask this question all the time, like, but it's hot on my feet, and I'm like, yep, and you're still gonna buy it because the no warp, no split, no crack, no fade, no staining, no adding resale value rather than taking it away. Best once and not look back for a long period of time. If that means that you have to wear slippers on a hot day, you're going to do it, as opposed to the alternative. And I think there are more products coming out that are retaining less heat. Like there are definitely some boards, particularly when they were the higher plastic, when they were more plastic than they were a true composite, and the PVCs are getting even more cool. But I mean, you cook an egg on the thing, and that was to me a little too much, because it was the heavy plastic factor was, if your dog is afraid to go outside because they might catch fire, well then but now it's gotten to the place where it's getting cooler. But even that grass that I have out there that I showed earlier, just because of the plastic component, when it's a smoking hot summer day, it's still going to be hot. But guess what? If you go to the beach on a hot summer day,
it's brutal,
and you walk through the sand, are you being like, well, this is ridiculous? You're going to wear something on your feet to protect yourself from it because you're at the beach. And so, yeah, I will be like, yep, expect it to get hotter than natural would, and who cares?
Yeah.
Right.
And I think there's even a lot of composites like the condo candy product that's even for balconies of apartments is a nice way to extend that living and outdoorsy feeling, even if you're living in a condo. You know, like if you don't have a backyard, that's a small thing you can do there.
I've had a lot of fun on people's balconies. That sounded weird.
Yeah.
But you meant to say decking material, and Candy's got some great product. As far as Candy's concerned, they really invested into the Ontario market, so they know the 4 seasons. So they have product that will last all 4 seasons and not fall apart. I just want to be really conscious of time and be respectful of those who joined us for the hour. The current time is 4:02. So for those of you who are wanting to sign off at 4 o'clock, we just want to say from the team here at Design Conversations, thank you very, very much, and stay creative. For those who can stick around, I know Paul and Sharon said they would stick around to continue answering some more questions. We're probably going to go for at least another maybe 10 minutes or so, and then we'll continue going over the audience questions, and maybe we can dig down deep into what resilience means to Sharon as well.
Just to remind everyone,
into Sharon's soul. That's next, yes. You'd like to
but just to remind everyone who is still watching of episode number 5,
yes,
which is going to be multi-generational living and things you should consider. And it's an important topic, and we look forward to having you all back. And that's going to be July 21st.
Okay. Awesome. July 24th, put in your calendar, everybody. All right, Joelle, what's our next question from our audience member?
So we had a couple questions from Carolyn and Tyson about the artificial grass.
Okay.
So basically for the artificial turf, where can artificial grass be bought? The product, and meaning the product that looks like real grass, not the cheap version found at the big box. Does it need a professional installation, or can it be DIY? And is there a specific brand that you recommend?
So Rymar synthetic grass is so on my show. So I have a new show coming out called Backyard Revolution, and that show shows so many different applications of Rymar. So we have areas that were just gray stone, and we transformed it into lawn. And I do a feature on the show where I walk through this, and you would not believe that it wasn't real grass. It isn't your dad's AstroTurf, as I was saying earlier. You know, it's like this it's really cheesy, you know, green felt. It's like the turf at the Rogers Center. You know, it feels like grass. It even has like the elements of the dead grass inside it. That's how real it is, and it drains. So you can roll this out on your own front yard. Where it gets tricky is if you're wanting to do custom work, like if you're wanting to notch it around stone, you know, then you got to be pretty handy with a knife just to make sure it's notched. You could lay down a carpet, you could lay down this stuff.
Does it need an underbedding or anything?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Yeah.
So when you're using it as a lawn, it can just go directly down over a tamped surface. But when you're using it, like, so for instance, we use it as a putting green, we used it as a lawn, we even used it as a wall feature. So yeah.
Wow.
When we used it for the lawn and the and for the putting green, we kicked it up a notch by using this one particular product that we used it on the lawn, but for the putting green it's a must. And it's a product called Ultra Base. And all that is a 2x2 panel. And all you have to do is remove your grass, lay down this panel, and lay this grass directly on top. You're done. It's so fast. It's so simple. And you don't need to remove all this excavation, come in, tamp down substrate. You don't have to do any of that stuff. Like the Ultra Base product tied in with Rymar synthetic grass. Like these guys are revolutionary product.
We did ours like 10 years ago. So we we did the prep work ourselves, and then they, you know, they came in with the grass and laid it, but we had to take everything out, put the limestone screening and flatten that all out. But then they came in with their, you know, fancy roller and knives and did all the, you know, the detail
their
work,
fancy
which
rollers,
was, yes.
Okay. All right, great. Joelle, next question. Thanks, guys.
All right, next question was a question about outside sound systems.
Yes,
what are you installing?
Tech.
Yeah, what are you installing? What works? What doesn't?
When it comes to outside sound systems, I love hiding speakers. For me, that's like if you could feel like, and whether it's for music or whether it's for ambient sound, because ambient sound, white noise, you know, whether it's running water, whether it's just chirping birds, whether it's, you know, your mother yelling at you as a child, like whatever floats your boat, you know, it's coming out of, if it feels like it's coming out of the landscape, you know, it's like, think about the way speakers were back in the day inside.
Sure.
It was like, you know, it was like guys driving motorcycles that are too loud, in my opinion. It's like, you know, there's like some sort of masculine, you know, naked male insecurity going on. My speakers are the size of, you know, the Burj Dubai. You know, it's the largest, you know, speakers you can possibly get to show how successful I am as a man. And that's changed now. Now you like, you know, the technology has made it such that you do not have to be showing off your speakers, and which just end up cluttering up the space. So same thing on the outside. I like to hide them. So not to say that that's always, you know, the best for everybody. Some people, if it's coming from a ceiling, you're not going to have a rock coming out of your roof of a gazebo structure, you know, but I try to make them subtle, make them look like they're tying in. And like I don't have a particular company that I could recommend. I've worked a lot with Brooklyn Audio Video. I'm not sure what areas they service, but I like hiding things.
But as far as technology is concerned, though, now, you know, it's not really that, I don't feel like it's all that necessary to have super specialized equipment for it. Like for us, you know, on our deck, I just plugged in a Google Home and hit it. And I walk out there and I go, okay, Google, play what? Oh no, my phone just went off. Play whatever.
Stop.
And
That's awesome.
and you know, and then obviously music comes on. So that's so simple. All he needs an outlet and access to Wi-Fi. And for, you know, for $40,
Spotify to play whatever.
See, there it goes talking.
You know, ask her. She'll tell you exactly what you're supposed to do with your speakers.
Oh no, now it's playing music.
Okay, we can listen to it.
All right, you guys.
That's how you know this isn't live, everyone. That's how you know there's a real, authentic conversation. That was so
All
good.
right, next question, Joelle. All right.
That's awesome.
Well, for fear of your Google answering the next question, I think that we could probably wrap up for today.
All right, very good. Very
Well, we were
good.
just getting started. We were starting to have fun.
See, so quick.
That's hilarious.
Well, we are 4:09. Sharon, if you want to share a little bit about the last bit we were talking about, you can. We've got to let's work that last minute out and go ahead and.
Do you have time, Sharon?
Oh, resilience?
Yeah.
That's a longer conversation, I think.
Okay.
But I think it's interesting to think about your 18-year-old self and what you have learned, and I think that's one of the things that I would definitely say. I won't even say can't even think how many years, but I have almost 18-year-old now, so trying to put yourself into their shoes and think, okay, what have I, and all this, the ups and downs, I think that's one of the big things, personally, professionally, all across. So.
And I will tie it into this, during this time of COVID-19 and uncertainty, resilience is something we definitely need to have during this time to get us through what there is. Because there's just a lot of things that you do this one day, you don't do that the next day, you do this the next day, you don't do that the next day. And you got to have a sense of resilience to be able to hear that and still move forward. So on that note, and pivot, absolutely. So on that note, Sharon, Paul, from everyone here at Design Conversations, Yaz and myself and everyone behind the scenes, we want to say thank you very much for all your time and your information. So